Hey, what's up? My name is Virchow. I'm a photographer, videographer based out of Fargo, North Dakota. And I recently purchased the Canon EOS R6. And I just want to tell you why, just from my experience, because I've been watching a lot of videos and a lot of people are having a hard time deciding which one they want. And I was one of those people. And you just really need to figure out what camera works best for you. And you hear that all the time, but I just want to break it down in maybe a couple different ways. So for the longest time, I was 1000% sure that I was going to get the Canon R5. I've always been about the biggest, the best available. I just view technology as in, like, if it can give you the most benefits, why wouldn't you go that way? Anything that can make your life easier, that's the route you should take. And for the longest time, I always thought spending the most money was the way to go. So in the past, I've shot with the Canon 5D Mark IV and the Canon EOS R, which has basically been my primary camera for the past couple years, and I absolutely love it. I was like all about mirrorless, and I still am, obviously, because I picked up an R6, but I was sure I was gonna get the R5, and then when I really broke it down, I was like, what's gonna make my life easier? And I really thought about it for the first time, and it was workflow. So the R5 is an amazing camera. It's the grail camera. It's the ultimate. But there's some compromises that don't exactly work with what I do for my workflow, and maybe they won't work for you as well. When you think about the major specs of the R5, 8K video, I have no use for that in my work. 4K 120, I have no use for that. I love 120 frames per second, and we'll get to that in just a little bit, but 4K 120 would absolutely melt my computer. And when it comes to the 45 megapixel sensor, I do 50-50 video and photo, and I was really intrigued by that because I do like having that room to work with where you can crop photos if you need to and still have that high resolution. But when I really thought about it, like, some of my work winds up on billboards and some of it winds up in like bigger prints, but even with the 30 megapixels of the 5D Mark IV and the EOS R, I've never seen any loss of resolution. I mean, these things aren't getting blown up to super huge sizes, so the 20 megapixels of the R6 was a little frightening at first, but when I really broke it down, I was like, 90% of my stuff is going on the web anyway, and this is perfect. And this one seems kind of petty, but once again, workflow. Having to use a CF Express card, number one, a lot more expensive than just your typical SD card. And two, when I had a compact flash card for my 5D Mark IV, I'd have an adapter to plug it into my computer, and even that just slows me down. It slows you down, it slows everybody down, as opposed to taking an SD card, just punching that thing right into your computer. Workflow, it all adds up. And all those things are why I decided to purchase the Canon R6. Once I broke it down and I thought workflow, save money. I can buy this camera and I have all this extra money that I saved that maybe I can invest in some RF glass. More on that in a moment. But it was exciting when I got the R6 because I got to buy it from an actual camera store in person, which I've never really been able to do. I've always ordered my stuff online. And I went to B&C Camera in Las Vegas. Super cool staff. If you're ever in the area, check out that store. It was like unreal to see all these things that I can typically only get online, actually physically there. It was super cool. So I got the camera. I was on a work trip. It was perfect. I was excited. I got to use it. So here's just a couple of things I absolutely love about the Canon R6. First and foremost, the autofocus system. If you put this autofocus system that's in this camera and in the R5 and basically any camera, I'd be totally happy. Even my Canon R, the R, if I could just have this autofocus system in that camera, perfect. This thing's unreal. It's like breaking my mind how good this autofocus system is. Like right now I'm watching on my screen, just tracking the eye no matter where I go, switching eyes. It's nuts. And I actually went to a place outside of Vegas called Seven Magic Mountain, or Seven Magic Mountains, something like that. And it was like the first day I even had the camera, and I'm using a RF 15-35 really wide lens, and I was a long ways away from people and from these sculptures or monuments, rock stacks. Like we're talking 100 feet, and this thing was tracking someone's face from that distance. And I actually just like stopped and put the camera down to like gauge how far away that person was, and it was mind-boggling. And that's when I knew, like, wow, this autofocus system is super legit. All the reviews are right. Like, this thing is the real deal. The second thing I really love about the Canon R6, and I'm sure this goes for the R5 obviously as well, is the in-body image stabilization. The IBIS is insane. Like, check out this footage. This was the very first time I ever even hit record. And it was filming this guy giving a speech to some people at the place I was working at in Las Vegas. And I'm just standing there, and once again with this 15-35 RF lens, all of a sudden I felt like a human tripod. I was just like astounded at how I was becoming a human tripod. it was crazy. And that's when I knew like, wow, this is super legit, but not only for the video side of things, but the photo side of things. It's unreal. You can stop this thing way down, use some really low shutter speeds, and you still get amazing shots, which is great for any low light situation. And I mean, if you have a steady hand, you can really hold this thing for a very long time. And that takes away the need to use ISO and to get those grainy photos. There's just a whole new world of possibilities. And honestly, between those two things, that's everything to me. Between the autofocus and the IBIS, it's changed the game for me, and it's gonna make me a better photographer, a better videographer, and it's gonna speed up my workflow having these smaller file sizes. Not only the 20 megapixels for the photos, but having that IPB compression, for the video formats. I really realized I've always used all eye, and it just, to me, my eye can't even tell the difference. Now when it comes to the overheating issue everyone talks about, I really don't do much 4K, but I did do some 4K while I was down in Vegas, and I had no problems whatsoever. I mean, for most part, I'm just gonna be using that for B-roll, maybe, perhaps, but even the 120 frames per second 1080p, which was another huge thing that I really was excited about in this camera, it works great. I went out to the house that I was staying at, to the pool area, and just did a quick little video. I mean, it was 110 degrees there. It was record heat when I was in Vegas. And I just put together a little compilation, and the camera was absolutely just fine. You just use it in these spurts and you're not gonna have any issue whatsoever. That being said, editing some of that 120, even just 1080 120 was pretty hard on my computer. But the 4K, I mean, not a chance my laptop could really handle any 4K footage ever, but making some proxy files of this 4K project I made for a local Las Vegas TV station was not a problem at all. It was super easy. I just don't have much experience working with 4K footage because I've never really had a reason to, but with this camera, like, this is the first time that I can actually tell a major difference between 4K and 1080. Normally, just to the naked eye, if you're watching something on the internet or even plugging it into your TV, like, I can't tell much of a difference. With this downsampled 5K footage, I totally can, and I guess I'm gonna start doing a lot more 4K footage, and that's kind of exciting. So in summary, if you're just trying to decide between an R5 and an R6, I gotta tell you, just whatever works for you. But if you wanna really increase your workflow, if you just wanna pump things out, rip, tear, bing, bang, boom, I just go with the R6. I think it's perfectly fine for basically most people's needs. I mean, if you wanna be bougie with it and go big, go ahead, but you can get some RF glass and save some money, you know, buy the R6, maybe get a cool lens with it. Like, I wasn't planning on getting any RF glass, and I was like, well, you know what, I saved all this money, why not get that 15 to 35, which is what I'm filming this video with. And now that I actually use the RF glass with one of their mirrorless bodies, I think it's time to just completely convert over. Like, this glass is nuts. Just real quick, like this photo. I was down there working for a place called Sicky's Garage. I work for them all the time, actually, but we were opening up a new restaurant in Las Vegas. In this shot, you can see this burger being the focal point, and behind it, you see this cool ambiance, this cool atmosphere. And that type of shot with that depth of field, the blurred out background, this being a 2.8 lens, would not have been possible with my 16 to 35 before. This just depth of field is so much better, and I was not expecting that. And this is one of the first pictures I even took with this lens and camera combination, and it blew my mind. And that's when I knew, like, all right, we're on to the next level of camera technology, and I am all in. So basically, in summary, these cameras with their autofocus systems, they work with you. It used to be like being a wrestling match with your camera, and now instead of being in a match against each other, you're like tag team partners and you're working together for the same common goal, and it's making things a whole lot easier. And I'm super excited going forward using this camera. I don't know, maybe somewhere down the road I'll find a need for an R5 and maybe upgrade or just use this as a background or a B camera. I don't know, but right now I've never been more excited for any camera I've owned, and I've owned way too many throughout the past few years, but this one, the Canon R6, this is the one for me. So let me know which camera is right for you. What is your workflow? Maybe you just gotta think about that. What do I actually need? Because I used to never think about what I actually need. It used to always be what I want. I was want. This was the camera I needed, and I'm super satisfied. You're gonna get the R5, the R6, or are you happy with the R? I love my R, I really do, but this autofocus and the IBIS, it's a game changer. Subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram at Dan Virchow. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and let's go create some stuff.